Rant and Rave back again with another video ahead of UFC 286. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, number 3, shaping up to be one of the best main events of the year. A cracking title fight at welterweight. The two will go head to head in the main event of a stacked UFC 286 card, obviously in the O2 Arena in London this Saturday, the 18th of March. I'm absolutely buzzing. Dave, excited for this one?
Yeah, big card in London now as well. We have to watch it on a normal time for once.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
The rubber match between Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. It's
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting one now.
It
Yeah,
feels weird seeing the three there. It's like you kind of forget about the first fight nearly.
yeah, you do 100%. That was a few years ago now. I can't remember what year exactly that was, but seems like a while ago. They were kind of
Long
only up and
time.
coming at the time.
Think it was obviously a three rounder. I think it was a unanimous decision win for
Yeah,
Kamaru. And obviously we all saw what happened in the last fight. We will touch on that later on, of course. So stick around for that. Please do drop a like in the video and subscribe if you are new around here as well. Much appreciated. Obviously, very early days in the channel, so your support goes a long way. You can tell a friend, tell anyone. Much appreciated. But we will jump straight into the main card. We will start off with the Italian Marvin Vettori, who takes on Roman Dolidze. Hope that's how you pronounce it. Really interesting scrap at in the middleweight division. Really good fight between the two. Dolidze quite more of a physical advantage, kind of probably a taller guy. I think he has more reach and stuff as well. But both
yeah,
guys are quite kind of grapple heavy, so could turn into one of those kind of slugfests and kind of a back and forth in that respect as well. But yeah, who would you anticipate to come out on top in this one?
it's tough because like Marvin Vettori, he's so experienced. He's kind of fought in the main events and he's had the bright lights shining on him. So I suppose he has that advantage over someone that's kind of, I suppose, a little bit less experienced in Roman Dolidze. But Marvin Vettori lost two of his last three, although against complete like top competition. He lost against Whitaker and Adesanya, and then he had a win over Paulo Costa. But Dolidze is coming off 4-fight win streak, and I think he's coming off the last three finishes, the last out of the last three. So it's tough to kind of call, but I would go if I had to pick someone, I would go for the underdog in this one. I think he could probably cause an upset.
Is that Dolidze? Is it?
Yeah, the Lizzie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Big,
he would.
big opportunity for him as well in terms of obviously being ranked number 9, and Marvin Vettori I think is 3 or 4. I think so. Big
Or yeah,
opportunity for getting into that kind of top 5. Obviously Vettori has kind of has to do this kind of fight because he's had his kind of cracks at the title. He's fought those main top 2, 3 characters. Obviously, you mentioned the Adesanya scrap as well, and he's coming in well beaten in those as well. So it's kind of a case of nearly back to the drawing board for Marvin Vettori and kind of earning his right to get a big fight again. But as you say, I
hmm
think the lid's obviously it's a big challenge for him, big occasion, of course, as well. But I think he will kind of rise to the challenge, and I think he could be get done by submission in this one, maybe in round 2 or 3. But obviously, I think I could see him kind of submitting them and maybe getting the better of him on the ground.
yeah. No, I do agree with you what you said about Vittori because when it's one of those ones where you kind of fought the top five and you lost the title fight, I think you kind of have to pay your dues again in a
Yeah,
way.
definitely.
Fight someone in like the lower kind of half of the top 10. If you kind of come out with an impressive victory, then maybe he gets back in this kind of talks for another title shot. But yeah, he has to earn it, I think, again.
Next up, we do have the women's flyweight division. Of course, we saw a new champion there in Alexa Grasso, who beat Valentina Shevchenko only a fortnight ago. So, yeah, exciting division at the moment, and a lot of people kind of see this as an opportunity, maybe a refresh to the division and kind of a new face at the top of it now. So, yeah, this was a big opportunity for both fighters here. We have undefeated American Casey O'Neill. I believe she is 9-0. Massive opportunity for her against the experienced Jennifer Maya, who has been in title fights. I believe she went a distance with Valentina Shevchenko. It did come out on the wrong side of that result, but interesting scrap here, and it's a big test for young Casey O'Neill against someone who's been there and done it really.
Yeah, for sure. As you say, she's went all 5 rounds with Valentina. Obviously, didn't get the win there, but still, as such, it's still impressive to go all 5 rounds with such a killer like Valentina. And you said American. It has here on the UFC that she's from the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's interesting
Oh,
because
I had American
that's
in my
the
notes.
home crowd behind her.
Yeah,
So that's also plays in her favor. As you say, 9-0. She's undefeated. There's one thing about undefeated fighters, it's a nice clean record, but I feel like almost to a certain extent, have they been challenged? Have they kind of been put through adversity? So that's another thing that maybe um she hasn't faced yet, and that's kind of why she has that clean record. So it'd be interesting to see how she performs against someone who's kind of a bit more experienced.
Do you know what's so funny? I literally just googled it there, just to fact check this.
Hmm.
Casey O'Neill, Australian mixed martial artist.
No
What
way.
the fuck, like? But then I
That's
clicked it.
crazy.
Casey Cameron O'Neill, Scottish born Australian. So there's a UK link there, in fairness. So you are right.
I don't know where the American came out of.
Yeah,
Where'd you get
yeah,
that?
well, that's some dodgy website must have been. Uh, I thought I saw an American flag beside her on the UFC. It must have been way off. Um,
Yeah.
my apologies, but yeah,
Scottish Australian, you say, was it?
Scottish Australian, yeah, yeah,
Interesting, interesting.
yeah. It's a nice little mix. But yeah, I anticipate her to get. I kind of want to see a new exciting challenger come up. She's only 25. Just saw that there after googling her. 25 years of age, and so
Yeah,
she had a good age to kind of get into that kind of top 10 and be a challenger in the coming years. And it's exciting face, and as you say, kind of a UK base that we know of. So yeah, it'd be good to see her get it done in London as well, which plenty of fans behind her and stuff. So yeah, I think it could be a great night for her. And I hope she gets it done, and I can see her getting it done maybe by TKO KO. Um,
yeah. She's coming off a couple of KO victories, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think that could be a good prediction.
Moving on to the third fight, Gunnar Nelson taking on Brian Barberena, another welterweight fight on this card. So, obviously, well, I don't think either of these guys will have too much of an eye on the main event. Like, I don't think they're at that level quite really, but they'll probably keeping an eye on it nonetheless. But yeah, two fighters, and they've quite similar physical attributes, similar height, similar range. So it's going to be an interesting battle in terms of how the fight goes and where it goes. Barberena is quite a good striker, and then Gunnar Nelson would be considered the better wrestler. So it's probably a kind of traditional matchup between a striker and a wrestler. And in terms of who comes out on top, I'd be leaning towards Gunnar Nelson, potentially maybe by a decision. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, 'cause I'm not fully convinced really.
Yeah, it's a tough one, as you say. Like they quite equally matched, like in terms of height and reach, and I think they've kind of had similar success and failure in recent years. They've kind of had a string of wins and kind of a string of losses, and then a win and a loss. So they haven't kind of had consistent records over the last few years. But as you say, Gunnar he's masterful on the ground. So
Mm.
you'd have to favor him on the ground, and then obviously Barberena, he has a few good KO wins over the likes of Robbie Lawler and stuff. So, but then again, Gunnar is no slouch on the feet, so it's a tough one to call. I'd probably be in agreement with you and probably lean towards Gunnar Nelson. I think maybe he just has that little bit more experience, but it's one of those ones that could go either way.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really, really tight scrap, and yeah, obviously Gunnar Nelson, we kind of would have maybe lean towards him through his links with McGregor. I'm not sure where what their relationship is at like at the moment. I haven't seen them train together for a few years really, but I remember always seeing Gunnar Nelson back in the days. He kind of rooted from in the early days because of his links with McGregor and kind of always training in SPG and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure where that relationship lies anymore. I haven't seen him training with SPG in a while. Have you?
No, I haven't. I think he trains out in Iceland, like because
Yeah,
I remember like McGregor would do stints training out there.
yeah, yeah. He
With
was actually.
Gunnar Nelson and John Kavanagh and stuff would pack up and bring the camp out to Iceland for a
Is
few
that
weeks.
is that when he fought the mountain or whatever? Is that out there?
Was that out there? Do you know what? It probably was,
Yeah,
considering your man, the
he's
mountain.
Icelandic, isn't he?
Is it? Yeah, I think he is because his
Yeah,
name is Hafthor
yeah. So
Bjornsson or
that
something.
probably makes sense then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's actually a funny video. It's a great
Yeah, it's
video.
so funny. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd imagine because obviously Gunnar is Icelandic, so I'd imagine he'd be training out of there.
Mm.
But I'm not 100% sure on that though. Yeah,
So you're leaning towards Gunnar, did you say, or
yeah. If I had to choose, I'd gun to my head, Gunnar Nelson. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, gun to your head, no pun intended. We will move on to the co-main event of the evening. A fascinating fight in the lightweight division, of course. Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev, and this one Fiziev, whatever. Is he Azerbaijani or something? Is he? I think.
Yeah, he's Azerbaijani, yeah. Or yeah, Kyrgyzstan, which is in Azerbaijan, yeah.
Kyrgyzstan, yeah. Fiziev, isn't it?
Fiziev, yeah.
Fiziev, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Got there
yeah.
in the end, yeah.
I always get now. I'm terrible with
That's tough. Azerbaijani name. It's pretty tough.
Azerbaijani, like, yeah, yeah. I had it
Yeah.
nailed down earlier as well, and then I just lost it. But then this one has like fight right written all over. I feel like Gaethje, any fight he's in,
Absolutely.
is just like it's just an absolute like it's just chaos from minute one.
In terms of actual like what's on the line, in terms of importance, the main event kind of stands out, obviously. But in terms of excitement and like a proper war, I think that the co-main event is going to really stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, both guys in good positions in the rankings as well. Gaethje number 3, and Fizayev is number 6. So, both really kind of in the mix, and high quality fighters. Is Fizayev unbeaten? Am I right in saying that, or is his record is quite
No,
strong?
he lost actually. Funnily enough, he lost his UFC debut, but he's been unbeaten since in the
Unbeaten
UFC.
since. Well, yeah. Yeah, he's such a talented fighter. Like, even looking at him, he's such an exciting one, and it's a perfect matchup. And in that regard as well, it makes it such a hard fight to call because you just don't know how it's going to go down. I think it's going to be both guys swinging, and
Yeah.
be interesting to see if um either of them kind of implement any of their wrestling. I know they're both kind of capable wrestlers. I always found that with Gaethje, I never really understood why he never kind of did it more. I think he was like a D1 wrestler and very high level wrestler, and he never really uses it. He's always just standing up and banging, even
Mm.
if it suits him to go to the ground at times. And I know I saw a clip of Fizayev saying that he's able to he will look to potentially wrestle in this fight as well, which is an interesting thing to hear him say. But yeah, this is another fight. It's kind of been a common theme on the main card of both fighters being quite similar in their physical attributes again, similar height, similar reach. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Fizayev is capable of kind of switching his stances if you've watched him as well. He's really, really exciting and dynamic on his feet, and that could cause Gaethje some problems in that department as well. And just being that a little bit creative, I feel like Gaethje can be a little bit one dimensional at times, just kind of put the head down and swing for the fences. And I think Fizayev could have that little bit more about him, and I think he gets it done by knockout.
Oh, interesting.
Big
Interesting.
call.
I would think breaking it down, like I think they are quite similar in style, as you say. They're both capable of wrestling. And Gaethje obviously doesn't use his wrestling, similar to kind of Michael Chandler. Like they have the skill to wrestle at an elite level, but
Mm.
they love the entertaining fights. They love the show. So, um, yeah, I just think, yeah, he's had a couple of impressive wins. He his last fight he knocked out RDA. Really, really, really impressive knockout. And then the fight before that, the who he fought, it's escaping me his name, but he won by a spinning wheel kick to the face, and it was
Yeah,
unbelievable knockout. But the one thing I've kind of very, very hittable, and I know Gaethje can kind of be, he gets into these wild exchanges and he kind of gets cracked. But I think he has tightened the screws a little bit over the last few fights, because I remember when he initially came out and he fought the likes of Michael Johnson, and they were both fatigued in the second
that
round,
was a
throwing
crazy fight.
just absolutely crazy, pure
Yeah,
entertainment. But from a from like
a skill standpoint or
yeah,
something.
from a
Yeah,
skill standpoint, it's kind of like you're
two
already
guys at the
tired.
bar.
Yeah, like you've kind of expended yourself too early and stuff. So I think
Mm.
he has tightened the screws, and I think he really stood out against Tony Ferguson that time he came in, and I kind of thought Tony caused him a lot of problems, and he just outclassed Tony completely. So I think Justin has tightened the screws a lot, and I think Fiziev, although he is an impressive striker and he definitely has the capabilities to secure a knockout, but I just think he's too easily hittable. I think his key to victory would be to maybe to mix in some wrestling, and maybe Justin's not expecting that. He's expecting just a kind of back and forth on the feet. And if he
Yeah,
mixes in some wrestling, I think he could get it done. But my pick would be Justin Gaethje by knockout.
interesting. Yeah, it's one of those that it is going to be a difficult one to call. Where do you think the winner of this lies in the landscape of the lightweight division? Like, how many fights away are they from a potential title fight? I know we have kind of Beneil Dariush, who's potentially getting this net in the next, probably deserves next opportunity, but maybe doesn't have that name to really push for. Obviously, you have potentially an Islam Volk rematch somewhere down the line. Maybe
Yeah.
not straight away, but it's definitely one that will happen at some point. We've McGregor Chandler coming up later this year. The winner of this fight maybe fights the winner of McGregor Chandler, depending on Islam, or is it? I don't know. It's hard to know, isn't it?
It is tough to know. I know Volk kind of voiced his wanting the rematch straight away, and I think Islam was open to it. So
Yeah.
something we could see. I'm not sure if the UFC would jump straight back into that straight away. I think they
Yeah.
might. I think with the interim champion at featherweight with
All
Yair,
goes down. Yeah.
they want him to defend now because they don't want to just leave Yair kind of hanging.
Yeah.
Um, but as for, I think it's tough for Gaethje. I think it's kind of, if Gaethje wants to challenge for a title, I think it is kind of a must win for him because
Mm.
obviously he lost to Khabib. Obviously, it's no shame losing to Khabib, but I think he needs to go out and have an impressive win if he's to convince Dana and the UFC that he's the next in line for the title shot. I
Yeah.
think Dariush, I don't know, like yeah, he definitely deserves it, but I've seen a lot about like people saying kind of conspiracy that the UFC want Dariush to lose because he just doesn't have that name, he doesn't have that character
Get
to
born or
kind
something. Yeah.
of to kind of promote
Yeah.
main event. Like, whereas like the likes of Volk, he's so outgoing and kind of outspoken. Like Islam is quiet, but I think he has, because he's so skilled. I think he can hold his own in that kind of exchange. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if Steve comes out and would impress, and he's right up there, 100%. He's right up there with a talks for a title shot. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at Gaethje, like he's lost to Charles, he's lost to obviously lost to Khabib, he's lost to Poirier. I think he lost to someone else in the kind of top in the top of the rankings as well at some point. So like he's lost a lot of big fights as well, Gaethje. So it is maybe hard to justify throwing him back into a title shot. Even though like no matter what, you'd never know what's gonna happen with him. But that Khabib fight, he was completely outclassed really. Put in a poor showing in
Yeah.
that title fight. But yeah, you never know what you're gonna get with him, and he is that kind of unpredictable fighter. And if you throw him in a title fight, he could just pull it off on a mad night, even against an Islam or something. But yeah, I think Gaethje is probably, even if he wins this, he's probably still a fight or two away from earning that opportunity. I think.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think also Dustin Poirier is
Is he
kind of put
fight?
his
Is he
name in the
scheduled to
mix.
fight?
No, he hasn't
No.
got a fight at the moment, but I think he's looking for something big, a big name, a big payday, or the title shot. So
Hmm.
I think because he lost to Charles, he was
Yeah.
submitted pretty convincingly
Run
by
it back
Charles.
maybe.
So you could potentially run it back. That's not like, I don't see that being a good fight for him though. Like running it back, and it's not a title fight, and he has to
Yeah.
face a guy that submitted him in 2 rounds. So
It's not like a big
yeah,
money scrap beater or anything like.
yeah, I think yeah, exactly. I think he's in it for the money or for a title shot. I don't think there's anything really in between for him.
Yeah, yeah, no, fair. We will move on to the main event of the evening. Of course, we mentioned it at the start of the video. It's Leon Rocky Edwards against Kamaru Usman. The third time these two go head to head. First time, as we mentioned, was a unanimous decision. That was years ago. Though obviously a 3-round fight, so the landscape is very, very different from it was back then. Then they obviously recently scrapped last year, I believe, wasn't it? Kind of mid last year.
Yeah.
And Leon Edwards pulled off one of the biggest shocks in UFC history, but arguably. Was probably down on every round on the judges' scorecards. Maybe might have grabbed one, but pretty much looked like Kamaru Usman was kind of sailing through to a decision victory, unanimous decision. But no, pound for pound headshot. Not dead just yet because he's back in the mix this Saturday evening. But yeah, unbelievable, unbelievable. Pulling that out of the bag from Leon Edwards. Even no matter what happens this Saturday, it's such an iconic result for him, and he's been the UFC champion of the world. No one can ever take that away from him. But he will fancy his chances going into it this Saturday, won't he?
I mean, yeah, you definitely have to fancy your chances given what happened. Like, it was such a devastating knockout, and I think he would have gained so much confidence, that belt getting wrapped around his waist, all the kind of attention he's gotten over the last year or whatever. Um, I think, yeah, he would fancy himself, but I think in the back of his head, like if you think of the first two fights, he could be, 7 rounds to one down out of the 8 rounds that they fought, and like
Yeah.
there's a reality of it, regardless of securing such a amazing KO, one of the best probably the UFC has ever seen, but there is a reality to kind of how both of those fights went,
Yeah.
and I think that could play a part in his head as well.
Yeah. There'll be no kind of complacency on Usman's part. you'd imagine you're getting the best Usman that you've gotten ever, really. I know
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he had some surgery after that fight, but he's had a couple of surgeries recently, Usman, I think, on on I think shoulder or something, I think it was. But sometimes when a fighter suffers like a devastating KO like that, they aren't the same, and when that chin starts to
mm,
crumble, like if like it's not taken for granted that like it's not going to be sometimes you see this more often. You think that one KO to a fighter can completely derail them, and that's when you kind of start seeing that slide. So obviously for Leon, that is the plan. So yeah, it's a really really intriguing one. Obviously, I think like everyone's pick, if it would have gone to their head, I think is going to be, well, for me anyway, would be a Kamaru Usman unanimous decision. That would be what I would predict, and what I would, if I was slapping down the mortgage on it or something, But I still wouldn't, like, you can't write off Leon Edwards, and like even watching like promo videos and stuff, it gets you hyped and get you buy into it, and you want it to happen. And I would love to see Leon do it, but reality does hit in, and you would lean towards an Usman regaining the title.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, like as much as it would be such a fairy tale kind of end to the trilogy with like being in London, his kind of home crowd surrounding him and
Yeah,
retaining the title and kind of putting an end to this rivalry or whatever. But I just can't see it for some reason. I think he's got such slick striking, like Leon Edwards is as elite as it comes. So
very well rounded. Yeah,
yeah, like he's as elite as it comes on the feet. So you know he can pull it out of the bag. But I feel like if Usman, we might get kind of a safe Usman. I feel like he might play it safe because although he's obviously was so dominant as champion, he
mm,
still got cracked with such a massive KO. Like, and I think that would still shake you no matter who you are. So I think he's going to come in maybe a little bit more reserved, and I think he wants to just kind of grind out a decision and regain his title.
yeah, yeah. It's really it's going to be a fascinating one. As you said, even if Usman comes out with that game plan of playing it safe, that could backfire as well. And like he
Yeah.
could like just be hesitant and leave a little bit more reluctant in times and stuff. And Edwards is going to come out like a train as well, you'd imagine, because it's kind of like, is it a case of nothing to lose for Edwards if he's
I
champion?
know. Yeah,
It feels like
I
that.
kind of agree with you if you're saying that. Yeah, because like it's not nothing to lose, obviously, but
No,
it
yeah,
kind of in a way because it's one of those ones where majority of people don't expect him to win, even though he is the champion and he KO'd him the last time.
yeah.
It's just one of those ones. So he can come in and kind of just let his shots like fly, and hopefully it goes the same way.
Mm. Would your pick be Usman though? Yeah,
I would definitely like I'd be lumping money on Usman. I think if you're going to go for the underdog, pick Edwards. But I just think the thing that rings in my head is the first two fights. Like Usman kind of dominated a few of those rounds, and I can't see it being any different really this time. It's
yeah,
only if Edwards kind of catches him with something nasty, then it could change the fight completely. But
yeah.
that's if he does.
Do you see this one ever being run back a fourth time?
I think I don't even like fourth time has that even happened in the UFC. I think
Yeah,
it just happened with
I just feel like because the
so
first one was
maybe
such like a non-fight, like the first one wasn't a title fight, so you can maybe get away with it.
potentially. I think four fights is a lot. It's a lot on a promotional side of things as well. I
Yeah.
think it's a tough one to push, even though these guys are top of division, big
Mm.
stars in their own right. But I just think it's tough to push a fourth fight. There's only so much people want to see, even for the likes of Connor and Dustin Poirier. I think even though like we'd love to see Connor fight at anyone at any time, but I still think the promotion of a fourth Dustin Poirier fight just it's not something that intrigues me as much as maybe a Chandler would.
Yeah, yeah. And if it was to be run back a fourth time, it'd be because the loser, the fight on Saturday night, goes on like a 4 or 5 fight win streak after or something. Probably like that's
Yeah,
the only.
if it was undeniable,
Yeah, exactly,
it was
exactly. Yeah,
undeniable that they deserve a shot, then yeah, maybe. But
yeah.
let's get through
And
number three first.
like realistically, there are some killers coming up through the welterweight ranks as well. You've obviously uh Hamzat coming through. You've Colby still in
Yeah,
the mix. You've got that Kazakhstani
Rachmanov.
fella. Yeah. Rachmanov coming through.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Whoever wins this fight is not going to be. It's not an easy line of challengers coming through. That's for
No.
sure. Anyway, so I wonder how long Usman has left in the tank. 35. Would you like? I would you outside shout to retire if he wins?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I just feel like can that kind of loss maybe kind of relit the fire. Like if he had continued winning and he had got to a certain level of a streak of title defenses, I think he could have hung them up. But I think now he almost has a point to prove now again.
Yeah.
That he's the baddest. Because if he just goes and wins a decision and wins his title back, and it was a close fight, it was a decision. He puts his gloves down. I feel like in the back of people's heads, it'll be the end to his career was getting his head kicked off and then just a decision win. So I feel like he has a point to prove there.
Yeah, yeah, leave no doubt for Kamaru Usman
Yeah.
this weekend, that's for sure. Dave, thanks a million. Our preview and predictions ahead of UFC 286. That was an enjoyable card to preview. We might potentially be doing something on the channel, maybe a live stream or something. We'll look into the logistics of it all ahead of Saturday. We'll let you know on our socials. Make sure to follow all of them. And please do like and subscribe to the video and get your predictions down in the comments below ahead of what is set to be an absolutely cracking card this Saturday evening. Dave, an absolute pleasure as always, my friend.
Likewise, brother. Cheers.